so we'll call the meeting to order at 7:03. Is there any public comment? Okay, not seeing anyone, move on. Approval of minutes from March 17th. I need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion of the minutes? Everybody's happy with them? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. We have some warrants. I'll make a motion payroll warrants 120 and 121.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We've got food service warrants 1031, 1033.
I move that we accept both food service warrants 1031 and 1033.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
I'll make a motion for elementary 1032, 1034.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
And we've got secondary 1115 and 1116. I'll make a motion. We
Alright.
accept.
Second that as well.
Any discussion there? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Caitlin, do we have any gifts or grants?
No.
All right, moving on. We have, we're still looking for a Guild Montague representative, so that position is still open. We have our Franklin Tech representative here.
Good evening. How are you? So we met last week, was our regularly monthly meeting. Our news is that the lottery that the state has implemented for vocational schools has led to an increase in special education needs, resulting in the need to hire another special education teacher to be in ratio. It was a 43% increase from the previous year. Incoming, we have 66 that we've been made aware of. Last year it was 39. So there are some concerns how that will translate out depending on the special needs as they go through the programs and the type of work that a vocational education does. Mostly in concerns with safety and things like that. The final public information center session for the new building is May 12th at 6 p.m. at the Greenfield Community College. All are welcome. The vote is October 6th in all 19 towns on a single day. And if passed, it would be they would borrow for 30 years. We had a presentation by our architect on the potential new building. It's an estimated amount of $236.6 million. Of that, the MSBA it's a 66.27 reimbursement, but not of all costs. There were some things they exclude. But it would be $113.8 million. The biggest news is that the Franklin County Tech School has left the Hampshire County Insurance Group. The Hampshire County Insurance Group had another almost 13% increase. The group that they're going with, they worked with a consultant. It's a 6% increase. And it's basically apples to apples. They're not losing anything off of their current plan. It's a savings of almost 7%, which is good because we've already set our budget, and the savings allowed us to hire an additional special education teacher. The superintendent search is ongoing. The search committee is interviewing 3 potential candidates this Thursday, and then the recommendation from the search committee and the final interview for the whole school committee will be on May 13th. The other big news is we had an unexpected visit from the Secretary of Education, Stephen Zeich Jr., on Monday because it was 413 day. So they quickly hustled to get everything ready, and he visited the aviation hangar along with a bunch of other people and lots of photographers and things like that. And that's about it, unless you have any questions for me. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Could I ask if I
Sure.
might have a comment on when we just went past the Gilmontague representative?
Sure.
Just to comment for the thousands of people watching, we do have a seat, I believe, on the Gilmontague. It's not a non-voting seat. But if people want to advocate for their children, or somebody wants to advocate for everybody's Erving's children, they might consider being on this committee as a non-voting member. You go there, listen, say what's on your mind. We have a voice there. So it's kind of important for our kids if somebody would want to step forward and do that.
I believe that you have 3 seats. I was on it briefly, but I was on it thinking there would be someone else to help offset because they meet twice a month. And it was something had to go for me, so it was that. Yeah, they're very welcoming, and you get all the agenda, and they listen to what you have to say. You just can't vote on to certain things. So, but they do listen to your impact, and it is good to have a representative of Erving there, to at least all the little stuff, that they address at the school committee meetings.
Paper airplanes for presidents.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're up to the Collaborative Educational Services Report. Do you have anything to share?
Trying to remember when the last meeting was. I forgot my other notebook that has my thing. I don't believe there is anything currently to share because we have our interim that I announced at the last meeting, and Dr. Bonner will be starting in July, and I think that's about it. I really don't think that. I'm pretty sure we haven't had a meeting since our last meeting.
Okay. Regionalization update.
That we've had 2 meetings in the last 2 weeks. I wasn't able to attend last night's meeting, but I do have everything. They're pretty much just final next step meeting conclusions, outreach efforts, throwing it all together. They have their long range plan. They have long-term cost and potential savings done out as algorithms and things like this. They have a whole thing there. Linda McCarthy has been appointed as part of their group to be their outreach consultant to try to get spreading the words out. And as far as legislation wise, Senator Comerford and another one that I forget, there was something about a $25 million appropriation passed for regionalization throughout the Commonwealth. So they're hoping that they will get in time to get some of that chunk of 25 million if it passes in the near future. And they're really pushing for public vote and outpour of all people's opinions, and they want to get conversations moving and going and things like that. That's all I got.
Great. Okay. So for our next meeting in May, I'd like to put on the agenda we had talked a couple of meetings ago about a subcommittee for looking at our tuition agreement. And so I'd like to bring that back and have that put on the agenda for May.
Under new business?
Sorry?
New business?
Yeah, I think that's where it should go. We can finagle that if we need to. Including, in the meantime, putting some advertising out to get that subcommittee hopefully formed, so we can talk a little bit more about that at the May meeting as well. So I'll reach out to you, Shannon, and then Beth too, to hopefully advertise in the school newsletter as well as other places, so we can figure it
Prior
out.
to the school committee vote.
Prior to the school committee meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like
Okay.
to advertise
So you have
prior
some
to
idea,
that.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Are we able to put it in around towns for all the?
So what's the date? The 14th. We might be able to slip it into the around town. I know they like to have it by the 10th, right? So we're a little bit after that, but
It's me, so you can have it by next Tuesday.
yeah, great. Okay, so we'll get that in, and
It's election. Sorry, I really have to be timely, but
Tomorrow was the date I saw.
yeah, so that would be wonderful. We can get it around town. We can get it on the Facebook page. We can get it, multiple places to advertise for that. So moving on.
I do have a question.
Oh,
I'll go
yep.
there. I was wondering with the push for I've been thinking about this for a while, for the push for regionalization of the 5 towns, and they're treating Erving as a tuition. Maybe this would be an opportunity for us to look into joining the district rather than just being tuitioned. If we're going to open the contract and we're going to relook at that, maybe now is the time to explore the possibility of joining the new region and maybe getting some money in that and making that. It's just a thought. I always thought in hindsight that they should have taken the opportunity when they started the 6-town regionalization to ask us if we wanted to join as a full member. That would solve the issue of not having any vote at a school committee meeting. We would be represented. We are a large portion of their current enrollment at the secondary level. So I was just wondering if the school committee would consider that. I know that when I was on the school committee in the early 90s, we looked at that possibility of either regionalizing with them or regionalizing with Pioneer, but it's just a thought if you would consider it when you were talking about renegotiating the tuition agreement or looking at it. Maybe it's time for us to become part of the district. Even if the 5-town district doesn't go anywhere, becoming part of the Gil Montague School District. That was it.
Yeah, so I think at the May meeting we'll really think about and talk about what we're going to charge with that subcommittee with as far as their kind of their duties. So I think we should just keep an open mind to all sorts of different things, and then we'll have a bigger discussion about it. Mark, I do just want to let you know that the town of Erving sent a severe weather alert, so you may want to think about your windows. I'm just putting it out there. All right. Capital Planning Committee. Has there been a meeting since last we met?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there
Okay.
is. And I don't have those notes. Who's the chair of that committee? Let me look. Hold on.
Well, I can talk about what we
good.
did in the beginning. This is on my director's report, but it's an appropriate time to share it now. So Shannon and I met with a representative from Select Energy to discuss putting solar on the roof once the roof, if it is finished. Select Energy won the procurement bid from Power Options, an organization that works with nonprofits to reduce the cost of complexity of energy. If we were going to move forward with solar, here's an outline of the
I
process.
just checked the radar.
Mark's already heard this part, so
He was there.
yeah. So the first thing we do is have Select Energy complete a system redesign and preliminary economic modeling. If the preliminary economics look good, they can complete an electrical visit and we would sign the letter of intent to submit the Eversource interconnection application and get a third-party structural engineering evaluation. If the letter of intent is signed before July 4th, we can still take advantage of the solar tax credits. They're going away through the big, beautiful bill. Select Energy pays for an impact study to be done to determine the viability of the project. And then we would decide whether to enter into a 20-year power purchase agreement, PPA, or purchase the panels ourselves. So a PPA would mean Select Energy pays for the project and owns the panels, and we are given a fixed kilowatt rate, usually about half of what the current rate is. So half of what it is now, and it would be fixed for the 20-year term. At the end of 20 years, we would have 3 choices. They can come out and remove at their own expense. We can purchase the panels at a fair market value, or we could extend our agreement at a new rate. If we did decide to purchase the panels, there are grants available through organizations like the Department of Energy Resources. The installation would have to include a prevailing wage rate, and we would also need to pay for the impact study, but they would still do the design work. So we don't need a vote now. A discussion might be appropriate, but if you could give us the go-ahead of support, then we would have Select Energy complete the system redesign and preliminary economic modeling.
Could I ask, have you had a discussion with Brian Smith, our administrator? Because he had some concerns. Have not been intimately involved with all that you're doing, but he had some concerns about what was being proposed with regard to state regulations and requirements, and I would suggest if you haven't, please do, so that we don't do a lot of work and find out it isn't going to work out.
Yeah, so this is information I brought to the capital planning meeting. He wasn't there,
Okay.
and then I'm bringing it to you, and then our next step would be to go to
Okay.
the town.
So part of the discussion,
Yeah.
I'd suggest you talk with him.
Sure.
And again, I don't know that he wasn't at that meeting, so he may not fully understand what you're trying to do or propose, but coordinating with him would be a good idea, I think.
Yep, of course. Thank you.
So what is the obligation that we have if we engage with these people in what you're asking us tonight?
Nothing. Where they would come out and do the system redesign and preliminary. Sorry, I have to keep looking because I won't memorize that. System redesign and preliminary economic modeling, and then we would kind of determine the next step and the next step, and we would bring it back to the school committee at every level.
So this is the I'm trying to understand, this is the only company option that we have to do solar?
It is not the only option, but they have already gone through the procurement through this this nonprofit that procures. They have they have over 1,000 jobs that they've done across Western Mass. They've been around for almost 20 years. We wouldn't need to do a full procurement.
And they also have if this is something we wanted to go forward with, right? They have a large enough purchasing base that they have purchased a lot of, so that we would be able to take advantage of the tax credits, because even though they're expiring, if the panels have been purchased in advance, you still qualify for the tax credits. And they have a warehouse that they have bought in lieu of projects coming, because they're just large enough to have that ability. So that is something, if we went with another company, that we would not be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, just that was my daughter letting me know that it is raining. So never fear, we have confirmed it is raining. I guess I'm comfortable enough, as long as there's no obligation, to move forward with this company, but I do not want to get locked into, I want to have, as Dan said, I think we need to pull in a few more people before we make any sort of discussion or any sort of decision, about buying, not buying, what it looks like, how it's situated.
This doesn't obligate us to purchase. It just allows them to create a plan.
Yeah, they're just coming up with a feasibility of it being here. And I have to say, we're fortunate. Of the 4 schools that they've looked at and the union, we're the only ones that look like it would be able to have solar panels, due to a couple different factors.
Well, years ago we had a company come out and look at the roof, and it ended up being that the roof was not structurally strong enough to support the unit. But they did come out and do an entire assessment and a design for us. So it's not surprising to hear that we're eligible. At least we kind of do that already. Yeah. Okay.
It's actually the same company that came out before. I was a little surprised because it was before I was here, but they came up with a whole schematic. I was like, oh, how'd you know?
So right, so they do know. Okay. Everybody else, how does everybody else feel about that?
I mean, I'm excited to move forward. I'm pro solar. I don't agree with renting them. I think that grants and school-wise, I think it's probably a smarter long-term. Not achievement. Long-term, monetarily,
Option.
to buy versus rent, but.
And they did give us some examples. I think West Hampton has a building that's going through it right now where they decided to purchase them, and they're willing to kind of give us the contacts and talk to them and see if what their process was like. And we would absolutely not do a letter of intent or make any decisions until after we have votes at the school committee level.
I just want to be mindful of the microphones. Are we feeling like people can hear us? Do we need to be speaking up?
Okay. Can you hear us? All right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's try, and I'll speak a little bit louder because we do have the glass above us that is making extra noise in the rain. What? Yes.
So if you do the 20-year lease, it will require.
I don't even know that that's worth even having the discussion at this point about.
Well,
because
if
we're not
you
there
do,
yet.
it will require a town meeting vote, because anything over 3 years requires a town meeting vote. So, and I was just curious if they had considered. I understand they're thinking the roof, But I was wondering how many kilowatts, how many megawatts it would be, and would it how much it would do for your energy needs, and if they also did the large-scale solar ground mounts, which would generate more and then perhaps pay the town money or credits on our, that's the other option I've seen other communities go in, it not just the roof, but so that was just it. Just yeah. I know you're not going anywhere with it. I'm just like I know for a 20-year agreement it has to be town meeting. So.
Okay, so I think the consensus is that we'll go ahead and have that as long as there's no obligation, and then we'll have a longer, bigger discussion once we get further down the road a little bit.
Great. And I know we have some time. This is a little premature, but they were open to talking with us. But if all goes to plan, our roof won't be complete until next summer at the earliest. So this is a kind of just paving the way for this project.
Well, I think it's important that we start things early because we do want to try and dovetail as much as possible, have things happening, as closely together as possible, so we're not prolonging this project. So I think it's good that we're starting all of this and getting down the road on these things. Okay.
I do have some other updates from the capital planning.
Great.
I had to pull up my notes, so sorry about that.
No worries.
The MSBA roof project, there's no new updates at this point. We're still in that waiting game for the accelerated program.
Although there was some forms that needed to be taken care of.
Right, but we don't have any timeline pieces.
Okay.
And Brian is very, we've talked about this and checked up on it, so there's no new timeline information.
Okay, but somebody is taking care of that paperwork that needs
Yep,
to
it
be
gets
done?
sent to Brian and I, and also to the select.
Okay.
Playground, we had talked before about collaborating with the playground that is going on in town. And then there were some questions that had come up about the ADA application because I had shared that Leverett just received $120,000 towards their playground to make it ADA compliant. And so the grant application for ADA application opens in May. And so I have sent the information to Thomas. I can't remember his last name. Thomas
Duffy.
Duffy, thank you.
Duffy.
He was at our capital planning, and we're going to look at that together. It'll be opening in May. We got the rain, we got the lights, and just some project updates. The walkway and paving is going to be completed in April. Hopefully over vacation is what we're hoping, and work on the playground door.
What on the playground? Sorry.
The playground door.
Got it. But Diane's, I don't know where I saw this. It may not be relevant to what we're talking about, but somewhere I saw a discussion about the possibility of a couple of tables or benches or a shade or something for people that in with this playground thing. Is that
So
something
most
similar?
of the playground plans that are coming up now, they really survey the environment, and they will build in a shade structure if there's not a natural shade cover. So that can certainly be part of the plan. I shared, one of the things that Thomas had asked is that I would share a copy of, it's a very extensive application for the ADA. Leverett was very collaborative and willing to share, what their completed plan looked like. Ours would be different because our property is different, but just so we could have an idea of what a successful application looked like. Theirs was very thorough. Their principal did a great job leading that committee, and so we sort of have that as a guide to help us.
And when is that due?
It opens in May, so it hasn't even opened yet, and it is usually, you don't find out, thinking back to Leverett's, I think it was due at the end of June, and then she heard in September. We were already back at school, I think, when she heard.
But still, so it's about a month turnaround time between opening
about
and
2 months,
and
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's due at the end of June.
End of June. Okay. So that's a lot to do in a short period
Yep.
of time.
Yep, and that is why Thomas was very proactive and asked to see, can I see the application so he could be able to see what some, because we would, if we did it and are doing a joint, we would have to file a joint application to the ADA. They won't let it just be for one piece. Yes?
Along with the question of shade structures if needed, this playground seems designed for active adults being out there with the students during recess. However, the playground gets a lot of use after hours, weekends, etc., by residents, and those kids frequently come with parents who would rather sit down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to make sure that our design has a bench and maybe even a picnic table as part of the design, which I believe is what's going to be put in at other playgrounds that the town is building. But I just want to stress it here because, as I say, the primary use for this is recess,
Mm-hmm.
and the paras aren't going to be sitting down, hopefully. They're going to be active and interacting with kids. But on the weekends and the evenings, it's families, and it gets a lot of use.
Okay. Is there anything else for that?
No, those were just the updates.
Okay. We're up to the superintendent's report.
Okay, so you have your report. I know Mark likes when I'm quick. So just a couple of updates. Beth, I'm sure will talk about that they had their science family night here, and it was incredibly well attended, and she'll talk about that. U28 updates. We have a wellness committee who has been working with a coach to update our wellness policies that have sort of fallen by the wayside, and so we're hoping to present that to the JSC at their next meeting. And I did link, Kelly had mentioned that there is a supplemental budget that is being, it's right now in process in the legislature that includes money for regionalization studies, which is one of the things. But big things is that it includes $232 million for special education that would go into circuit breaker, and early literacy and school rural aid. So those are things to be watching. Some of those which would directly impact, could potentially impact our budget. They're going to restore 4 million of the 8 that they cut. So that's my report. I'm moving on.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions about that?
So, thank you.
Director of Finance and Operations.
So I gave the big bulk of it about the solar. I also linked 4 documents into my report. So if you wanted to look at it some more, there's a letter of intent draft, so you know what it would look like if we decided to go forward. The Mass General Law, Chapter 164, Section 137, Power Option Solar, RFB benefits, and the 2026 Massachusetts Power Option Select. So if you've got some free time and want to read some stuff about solar, it's there. The expenditure report we've got 3 lines right now in our instructional supply lines. Textbooks, instructional materials, instructional supplies, and testing and assessment materials. And I bolded those 3 because we have been reducing those lines to the point that we can't stay within the budget we have for them right now. So right now we're about $2,600 over on textbooks and instructional supplies, but we've reduced that line by $3,500 in the last 2 years. We are a little over $3,000 over on instructional supplies, but we've cut that line from $20,000 to $10,000 in the last 2 years. And for testing and assessment materials, that one we only cut a little bit, but we're over about $2,400. But that this year is a little more of an anomaly because we were just in need of some things that for special education testing and assessment materials that we were had waited long enough to make some purchases on. Besides that, we have right now, if we account for everything we know we're going to purchase, including the amount, the $20,000 ish for the truck, we have about $66,576 remaining. That's with also counting all salaries encumbered. These are salaries through the year, things we know we're going to purchase through the year. We are lower than we have been in years, but we have a lot of circuit breaker money that we're going to use. But I want to use it towards the end of the year after we've already paid the tuition and transportation. I also need to look at, if you look at the secondary budget, that budget's down to $16,665, which is very low. But I can use circuit breaker on either or both budgets. So we're just it's gonna be a May-June decision where it gets used to support the special education. Probably a mixture of both. Both of the budgets will be out of a deficit. I don't have a fear of that. But I'll use the circuit breaker money comfortably for what we need to use it for. So going back to those lines, we're really out of options for where we can reduce for supplies, materials, non-salary lines. When I attended the select board FinCom meeting 2 weeks ago, they made a request for us to reduce another $11,000 from the elementary school budget. That can't come from plants and operations, supplies. I have a possible amended budget if you wanted to satisfy that request and reduce by $11,000. And what we would do is remove the $11,000 that we would typically use for the enrichment program for the summer. It's not a requirement. It's not special education related. It was a nice enrichment program, but that's where we would have to cut from.
I'm sorry, so if we have 66,000-ish left over after we've encumbered everything, why are you saying we have to get rid of a program to reduce by 11,000?
That's 66,000 without taking into account other, evaluations that come up, other things that come up. That is, if we don't spend any more than we have planned, that's how much we would have. That would be a total freeze on spending, which a custodian could say, actually, I need my extinguishers inspected. We have these things come up for the rest of the year.
Well, they really shouldn't. If your extinguisher needs to be inspected, that should be something that's known. I mean, that's not something that just pops up. It's a scheduled thing. Your extinguishers are on a certain schedule. So while I hear what you're saying, I don't think we need at this point to cut a program to accommodate a request to reduce by 11,000, since we have 66 sitting there. If we come to June and truly something has come up, then we can decide to reduce that program, say, or something else. But I just don't see at this point we need to be cutting a program when we know we have 66,000. And
We
I
have
think
66 for this year.
But that's what the request is. Is the request not for this year?
No, it's for us to cut, if I'm wrong, it's for us to cut 11,000 out of next year's
Oh, out of
budget.
next year's budget.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you had said this year's budget. Okay, so you're looking for us to find 11,000 in next year's budget to reduce by.
Well, we just need to know whether our budget will have an amendment for $11,000 less to bring to the town meeting, and then the school will make the decision where that cut is going to come from.
I think my statement's still going to be the same. We have always had enough money. We have extra this year. I don't see why we wouldn't next year, although we've budgeted very well. $11,000 isn't that much money in our overall budget that I don't think that we can figure it out. And in the event that we do get stuck, then we go to the town and we say, in good faith, we reduced this by 11,000 because that was the request that was made. But unfortunately, some unforeseen thing happened, and now we're looking to take that 11,000 back.
We're not opposed to cutting it. We're just saying that on paper, where it would have to, our recommendation of where to cut it, because we have to look, our recommendation as the educators is that you can't cut from required programs. If we get to next April and we have the 66,000, that program could be, the enrichment program for the summer could be reinstated. But we would not, that's where we would cut from the budget because it's not a required. That's our recommendation. The school committee can do what they choose. That's our recommendation about where we would cut it. And to your point, if we're next year with 66,000 and we get to a point where we say, well, maybe we can run something in the summer, that money can always be reallocated, correct?
Yep.
But that's where we would make a recommendation that if you're going to meet the town's request, which, like I said, that's a decision for you. We're not saying
What?
either, but we would recommend you cut it initially in the enrichment program because is it a wonderful extra? Absolutely, but it is actually an extra.
What did they specifically say?
They want us to cut 11,000 from the budget for FY27.
And our budget overall compares to last year's budget as an increase of
1.54.
1.5.
Which is less than the COLA that we've negotiated.
And it's not only that, but it's less than they had requested increases in general, or and the program we would be cutting would be next summer's, not this summer.
So
It
we
would be
could
this summer's program.
be this summer's
This
program,
summer's
but there
program.
might be some funding for this
I have
summer's.
arranged to bury the program in a grant that is expiring at the end of the summer, so I would still be able to run an enrichment program this summer.
But it would be off our budget for the following.
But it would be off our budget,
Right.
and there's no guarantee that money would exist the following year.
But so we would be taking grant money to run it this summer, so it would still happen this summer.
Correct.
I don't like the idea of taking whole programs and saying, okay, this is what we're going to say. I don't like that idea. And the audience wants public comment. So I would say let's go with the grant for this year, and
And we're not
see-
saying we wouldn't pursue grants to fund it in future years. We're just saying that it would not be something that would be in our budget. Doesn't mean that it wouldn't happen. We could still pursue grants, but they're not guaranteed.
And, well, we could also look at where our budget stands overall
You
next
could,
year, and whether or not there would be a way to keep that program going
Mm-hmm.
the following not this summer, but
But
the
for
summer
accounting
following.
purposes, we have to have somewhere to show where that 11,000 is being cut.
And just to piggyback on that, I would rather us look in the budget and see we can take 1,000 from here, 1,000 from there, 1,500 from here, rather than saying an entire program is cut. Again, this is not a lot of money in our overall budget. I don't see that we need to cut an entire program. I feel like we can just take a little bit from here and there. And if we have to say, look, we don't have as many, materials and supplies as we did last year, we're cutting $5,000. People are just going to have to be creative in how and what they spend their money on. I mean, we've been very, very generous in the reimbursements that we do every time we pay a bill, but almost without exception, we are reimbursing staff for things, and that's wonderful. And I think that's great that they go out and buy the things. It's great that we are able to reimburse it, but I think we also can say, but next year that pot is just not as big. So be thoughtful about what you're buying, or have another system to everybody gets X amount of dollars or something like that, rather than saying we are just going to not have the summer enrichment program. Or we take a little bit from the summer enrichment program and a little bit from other things, and we maybe have a smaller enrichment program on paper until we are better, in our year, in our budget, and can see that we can then, reallocate money to make that program whole again.
What is the percentage that they're asking? You said it's
It was
$11,000.
11,000.
And what's that percentage? I know, but we get our say,
Yeah.
and then you go to public comment.
Our budget would go from 1.54% increase down to a 1.25.
I just,
Ultimately, this is a school
Well-
committee decision.
I personally would say no.
No to taking the 11,000, or no to what? What are you
Cutting
gonna
it. Cutting the 11,000, I would just say no.
Before we vote, could
do? Well, there's
I
no.
chime in a little bit?
Absolutely.
It seems like each year we have put a budget as small as we think we need, and the town has assured us if we need more, we can go back and they'll help us. We document we need more. But each year we've turned something back to the town. I think it's much in excess of $11,000 we probably turn back into the town. And if we say, for the sake of its record keeping, it has to come from somewhere, and you say it's this program, or you say it's here, there, and wherever it is. The end result is, if we tell the town, as a school committee, we're gonna cut $11,000, they don't care how we shuffle things around afterwards to make up what we need to make up.
Yeah.
And instead of turning back some, if there's some to be turned back, we can have the 11,000. I'm confident at the end of the year we'll have more than 11,000.
I agree.
Even though we budget as close as we think we can, and by watching it, as you said, I think, well, just my opinion, that cutting it is not a big thing. However, for the taxpayers that are watching, we are at 1 point, how much?
5-4.
1.54. So we're way under. Everybody just says, well, you get to increase by 2.5%. We're not doing that.
Yeah, we're doing with this, our current budget for next year is as good as I've seen, and I have been a critic over the years of our money sent back and so on. And like I say, I don't like the idea of cutting a whole program, and so I would say that we're not going to cut any program, and we will, assume that that amount will come out of monies that will be, will be, I don't know what they're called,
Return to the town.
yeah, the money that's returned to sender. Yeah, this.
And I hear you, but I just want to point out we have to have somewhere to show that that has been cut from the budget. And I hear your point. We'll take a little from here and here, but that it creates a real burden operationally. If we cut that program, or right now there's no funds in it, and we have the money, none of us want to cut the program. We could restore it to that line, but if we're cutting 1,000 from this line, 1,000, we've gone through every line. We've told you what we think we need in every line, and the reality is it's a valuable program, but it's not a have-to program.
Go ahead. You
So-
go and then I'll go.
Mine is, I'm with Mark, like, we got this down. It's 1.54. It's less than the COLA. This is an outstanding budget. You guys did an amazing job on it. I think it's our job, your job, to put this together. Our job to, we've already said this is a good budget. Bring it to the town and let the town people vote that they want this to pass or something different to pass. Like, it's a tough push and go. Like, I know there's nothing we can do about the secondary budget, but that's where our huge increase is. Like, you guys have done so much work at already bumping it down so much.
I'll bring up the secondary after this discussion.
I think you're right. Those points are all great points, but I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not believe that the school is the only department being asked to relook at their budget, and I don't really feel that it is useful, collaborative for us to just say, no, we're not doing it because, we did the best job we could and you guys figure it out somewhere. Like, where else, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has to kind of pull together and everybody has to give a little in order to make a balanced budget. So I think for us to come up with $11,000 out of this budget is really not a huge ask. I hear your point about, and I understand your point about it's got to show up somewhere on the budget. And so I also agree that I guess it really doesn't matter where it comes from. I feel like we are going to have enough money, like Dan was saying, to fund this $11,000 over the course of our budget. So if you take it from there with the clear understanding that as we go through, we're going to backfill it, if possible, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter where you pull it from, but I will say that I do think that there comes a point where we just have to say, we would love for everybody to have everything, but that's not the reality anymore. The reality is we all have to pull in a little bit. And so maybe you're not going to go and be buying all of the things that you've always bought. Maybe we need to pull it in a little bit. I mean, everybody has a budget of their own at their home, and everybody is making cuts to their own home budget. So this really shouldn't come as a surprise that our school is maybe not going to function as it always has, or as it has in the last few years. So, you know, we ultimately need to make some sort of a motion and move forward with this.
Why don't we have public comment first?
Yep. I haven't forgotten. I think ultimately, though, our choices are either we are voting to, you know, reject the request and keep our budget the same, or reduce our budget however we decide to reduce it by $11,000. Those seems to be our two choices on the table.
And that's not what we have to choose, right? Like, yes, we have to choose yes or no right now, but we can work on that 11 at a later point, right?
Yeah, we can, I mean,
yes, because the bottom number just has to change by $11,000 within the budget. Where that goes, we can continue to have conversations about.
I don't know that anybody will ever convince me we'll get to the end of the year and we wouldn't have 11,000 maybe.
I
That's
agree.
another
well,
point, yeah.
I
actually,
agree.
to tell you, so this time last year we had $265,000.
Yeah.
And we did return a lot of it back. We have 65. The other 3 schools in the union all have over $125,000 left right now. 66,000 is a lot more than you think it is when it comes to the expenses to get through the next couple. We still have a quarter to go.
For the next year. We're talking next year's budget.
Yeah.
Right.
No, for this year, when you look at what we have left,
Right.
it seems like, oh, we're going to end the year with all this money left. That's probably not the case.
Okay, no,
But
I'm just trying to
I agree
separate
with
this
you.
year
I
and
still
last
think it's going to be.
Yep.
This year we got 66,000 left to get us through the end of the year, and that's fine. We may be in the same situation next year. I
We
don't-
might be.
Don't know yet. But whether it's this year or next year, my expectation is we'll have a little bit to turn back, and if we don't, the town has always told us, well, not always, the last 10 years or
Yeah.
so, they've told us, if you get to the end and you need more money, come and talk to us. I mean, justify that you need something, but cut the budget to the bone where you can to begin with. I think that's where we are.
And I think that plays into us being then at this point saying, yes, in good faith, we will reduce, because in good faith, we might have to come to you and say, you know,
Right.
a catastrophe happens and we need more money. So I think it's a little bit of give and take on both ends. If we're just going to be like, nope, we're not doing it, that doesn't really bode well for us then on the other side if we do have to go back to the town and ask for more money. Do you know what
At
to
some
say?
point, I want to put a proposal out, sort of, that wraps it all up. But why don't we get Jackie's comment first?
So first of all, I agree you shouldn't cut a program, but I attended the Select Board and Finance Committee meeting last night. Due to the rising cost of healthcare, of which the town covers the staff at the school, they rose 40% this year alone. They're going to rise another 13% again. So we do not have the capacity, as we have had in years past, for the departments to have the little extra. And everyone produced a very lean budget in the town, even with some reductions. So asking the school committee to cut the 11,000 wasn't because you didn't do a great job in keeping it at 1.5. It's just that there's not enough money there. That's the problem. And Erving's still in a position of luxury to afford all the things that we have now. So I just wanted to clarify, we could take the stance not to cut, but that would put us back where we were 3 or 4 years ago with the animosity at town meeting. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to go through that again. Okay. So it wasn't, the ask wasn't without great thought. Everyone was asked to cut. And at last night's meeting, they're calling back the public safety departments to see if they can cut some more out of positions that aren't currently filled. So it's not like they're not asking. They are. They're asking everyone to have a lean budget because the funding's just not there. And it's great that other schools have $100,000, but given the current financial climate of all the schools in the district, I'm sure that their finance committees are looking at that bottom line as well, wondering where they can tighten. My suggestion would be that, I know you're not touching the school choice money, right? But there's always that pool if you need it. It's not something but it's there if you need it in an emergency. I agree with Dan. Over the past 10 plus years, the select board has always said, please budget as conservatively as you can, but if you run over for whatever because you had a special education cost you weren't expecting, please come back to the town and we'll see what we can do. And they've always been supportive. I've been in those middle of the special town meetings where you've needed more money. So that was it. And then at the last school committee meeting, I told you that I knew that we had 6 Erving resident students going to the tech school. Those 6 should be reduced from the secondary budget over at Gil Montague because they are going to another district which is already in the budget. So the tech school has its own budget, and that was reduced as well. So it's not even because we have less students going, our budget is smaller than it would have been in a previous year, which is good for this year because there just isn't a lot of money. So I was just going to say that please look at the secondary budget for the monies to make up. If you're keeping the numbers same from this year to next year, I wouldn't, because you're losing at least 6 students because they're already accepted and they're going over to tech. And even if one of them decides not to, there's one on the waiting list. So that's all I'm saying. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, so go ahead.
I would propose that we, for next year's budget, we eliminate the summer enrichment program with the intent of covering the expense for this summer's program through the grant that was mentioned, and potentially looking at next year to backfill that program with anything that we end up turning in back to the town, number one. Number two, any other sources that we come up with, whether they be from secondary or what have you. But we look to backfilling into that program for the following summer, either from, if we have an excess of cash that we're look at the end of the year, we have money available, instead of turning it back to the town, backfill it into that budget. If that's legit, I don't know if we can do that.
I think it would be, we cut it from the FY27 budget, but keep it on the table and discuss when we start to discuss FY28, when we wouldn't have the grant funding, and whether that would be an area we would want to add it back into. But I do, before you make any decisions or take any votes, I do want to talk about the secondary budget. They've asked us to level fund that budget.
Well, we've got to take the votes individually. So let's
Yes,
take care of it.
but I want to make sure you've got the whole picture before you vote on one or the other.
Well, it's not, one is not going to really impact the other because they're individual.
They are.
So let's, just for ease of operation, let's deal with elementary, because whether we do or don't, it's still not going to affect whatever you're going to tell us about secondary. We're still going to have to deal with separately. So I hear what you're saying. So, but I just want to clarify. Are you making a motion that you're looking to reduce the budget by 11,000? Because that's kind of where we need to start.
Reduce the budget through eliminating funding for that program and covering that program this year with a grant, and in the future looking to backfill it through other sources that we would happen to come.
Okay, so that's a lot in a motion. Do people feel good about that motion? That's kind of 3 things rolled into one motion. Somebody want to second that? So reducing the 11,000 by cutting that program and looking to backfill as we move on with the next budget.
The next year.
I will second that.
Just by comment, to be clear, something you said, I want to be sure we're all on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't be taking money from this year's budget that we might return to fund that. It would be at the end of next year, if there's some money left, we would fund it, figuring we usually have some to turn back. But something you said, it seemed like you want to take money from this year to fund it. I don't think we can do that.
Yeah.
You can take money from this year.
I was saying,
next
yeah,
year.
I was saying that if when it came down to the end and, we're looking at money to roll back to the town, I was going to say, well, if there's $11,000 there or close to it, we would backfill it into that program.
So it's in a different fiscal year.
Gotcha.
'Cause
Yeah,
it's
okay.
I thought you
first.
meant next year. So
Well, we would do it then in the future.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
as long as it's clear, okay.
This summer would be under FY27, and it would be removed from the FY27 budget, but it looks like it could be grant funded, and then if it's removed from the budget for the following summer, we would have to add it back into the budget for the FY28 budget if you wanted it to continue.
Yeah, I would say we would try to add it back in for the FY28 budget. That's my proposal then. You corrected me.
Okay, so is everybody clear on what the motion is on the table now?
yes.
And did you
Yes,
second
I
it? You're still
second
good
it,
at
and
seconding?
I'm content with seconding that. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other discussion about it? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
So secondary, they've asked us to level fund. We did have,
I'm sure that I abstained from that last vote. I'm supportive of it, but I'd like to, for
Oh,
other reasons.
absolutely. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you didn't
That's
say
okay.
for. So we have three yeses, one abstention.
Right.
so we had a 4.8% increase due to some additional special education students, both in public and private places in the secondary level. They've asked us to level fund it and to bring it back down to a 0% increase, with the understanding that when we get that first quarter tuition bill from Gil Montague and we start to kind of know more about what the special education placements are going to look like in the fall, that we can come back to the town and fill and adjust our budget to meet the demands of the current year. We do take the students that go to the tech school into consideration. We have a small class of 12th graders graduating from Gil Montague and a large class of 6th graders going into Gil Montague. So we have an increase of enrollment there. We have an increase in special education that has a much higher tuition rate. And we have a 2 additional out-of-district placements at secondary level. So this year has been tight on the secondary budget. There is a very strong possibility that we will need to go back, but without knowing exactly what the Gil Montague tuition rate is, and if students do leave or go other places or school choice other places, this is feasible because of the cooperation with the town.
And so what are they looking for us to do? Remind me in numbers?
They want us to level fund it to the same amount that it is this year.
Which is,
$1,350,326.
oh.
I thought it was the one before that.
Oh, you're right. I'm on the wrong one. $1,288,621. So it's a reduction of $61,705 from what we had estimated as the tuition rates, the transportation, the out-of-district placements, all the things that go into the secondary
Give me the
budget.
numbers again, I'm sorry.
So you had voted for 1,350,326. We would be reducing it to 1,288,621.
It seems a little strange that what we're being asked to do is to put a number down that we know is not going to be valid.
It's not in the calculations I have.
So, like I said, I mean, it's we're being asked to put a number down there as a placeholder, and knowing that it's absolutely not going to be the number going forward.
And fingers crossed we make it out of the seat of our pants.
Or we say, hey, we know now, and we don't get the first quarter bill sometimes in late fall, but then we would say, these are the numbers this is what it's going to be, and we don't have enough money. And so we go back to the town, and then they have a special town meeting and vote to supply us with more funding.
I would think they need to know that beforehand.
Well, free cash would be certified, it's usually certified around November. So free cash is all the unspent expenditures
Yeah, I
that
know.
go into free cash, and often that's where things get funded from. So that's why it makes a difference on the timing. It has happened in the past where the town has given more money at the secondary level because the budget has run short because of unexpected costs.
And there's just 61,000 chilling in free cash by November.
Well, we had 100 and a lot, right? Dan, it was 100 and something thousand.
120 something, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
We also
Okay.
have, don't forget, we have our special education fund that we set up a couple of years ago. So there's money in that. We do have little pockets of money here and there. There was made mention of the school choice, that's elementary, but it all eventually comes out of the same pot.
Well,
So
actually, we
that's
could
money.
not use school choice for secondary. It has school choice money funding has to go to the students that are school choicing in.
Okay, but we could then reallocate
Something
our
else.
elementary budget to secondary.
There are different lines in the town's budget.
Okay. Okay. Fine. We will. I mean that may not work, but
We could
do,
use the special
We
education.
could use a special
Yeah, it would
education
just take
budget.
a town meeting vote.
So I do think that there are ways that we could fund this as well as having, like was mentioned, the free cash would be certified at that point. So I think it's a strategy that is a little bit of a kind of a move. I don't want to call it a shell game, but like of moving around to meet the needs at the time that needs need to be met, and then needs at other times will be met at other times. Again, I've never had a situation in all the time that I can recall that the town has not been able to provide if we needed it. So I'm comfortable doing this, but again, we'll take a motion and a vote.
As the newbie, I'm just like, I'm in awe that the town's like, oh, the kids can just wait. We'll just see if we have enough money for them. It's how
Well,
it
I mean,
comes
it can't not get paid, right? It's
I
not a thing
agree,
that
but
can't
it's
not
like,
get paid.
I don't
It's just a matter of, again, timing it strategically so that money is freed up in other places to then, if we need to go back to them at that point, money will be freed up. We're not, barring the doors. We're not letting them not come.
Maybe can I just add a little bit of historical
Yeah, I would
perspective, because I
love
was
some.
here for some
Yep.
part of this. There were times the school committee, finance, select boards, and they're all at each other's throats all the time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we're not there now, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But some of it comes from the first few years when they said, well, if you need more, come back and we'll support you having more. Say, well, will you really do that? I mean, you don't really.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of distrust all around when people are not getting along well. But in the years that have gone by, they have. When the school has needed more, people have supported education at town meetings and said, hey, we didn't foresee this. We thought we were going to need more, but we weren't sure. Things could change. Somebody could move or whatever. So, and the town has assured us that if you need more, come back and talk to us. We can't guarantee what the voters will vote for, but typically they voted to support education. So I feel comfortable that if we need more and we go back to the town, that they're going to be supported. I don't see why they would not be.
I just would put out that there are two distinct differences between now and then. And one is the situation with insurance, which affects the whole town. And the second is the the power company and the loss that we got into there as a town. And neither of those situations were true in the past, and they are a reality now. And I don't see any other way to do it other than to say, oh, okay, here's the budget, but it's probably not going to be what we really need to spend, and it's also has been like this in the past, so bear with us, but it's not good.
I agree. And in a perfect world, we wouldn't need to do this. I think the other thing that is worth noting is it's not it's not something we're doing without them knowing, and it's not them doing something without us knowing. It's both of us agreeing, like, hey, this is a little, unusual. We all need to be a little bit flexible here, but we're all on the same page in that we understand this is how we are crafting it. So it's not the most ideal situation, but it's not something that the other party or the other side doesn't also agree with.
Well, I will say the last year, the school committee voted on the secondary budget, and then it was changed, and we didn't find out that it was changed until I got the warrant. So
What do you mean it was changed?
they changed the number for our secondary budget, and I didn't find out about it until I got the actual town meeting warrant. So whatever you vote here, they could change the number anyway.
I think that's a conversation we should have again. But that seems highly unusual. So I think let's work with what we have in front of us right now. And we need to make a decision one way or the other and move on. So we'll need a motion to do something. Either we're going to make the motion to maintain where we are, which was at the budget that we voted for whatever last time, or take into consideration what the town, what the select board, the FinCom has asked us to do, and reduce our budget with the understanding across all of the parties that we may need to go back in the fall and adjust our budget once our first actual bill comes in from the secondary school. Do we feel like we want to have more discussion on this, or do we feel like we're ready to make some sort of a decision?
I think we got to go ahead and make a decision.
I was just so hesitant already on dropping 11,000. Now you're like, oh, we just want to get rid of $61,000 for our kids, and I'm like, I'm struggling as a newbie at this
I understand.
concept.
Yep.
You're not struggling any more than I am on this.
I mean, I'm open either way. I have an opinion, but I think.
Well, unless there's any more discussion, I'll go ahead and make the motion. I want to be productive here, so I'm happy to continue to have a discussion if people feel like there's new things to bring up. Otherwise, I'm just going to move forward. I'm going to make the motion that we reduce the budget back to level funding of our fiscal year 26, which, Caitlin, I'm going to say the numbers again and you make sure I say them right. 1,288,6621.
Hold on, I just popped out of it.
Okay.
That is what's on my paper copy.
Thank you, Chair.
1,288,621, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm making the motion that we do, with the understanding that we will return to the town in the fall if we determine that that budget is not going to, fund our secondary education budget. So I either need a second or I don't.
Second.
It's okay. You don't have to second it. I'm just trying to. The procedure is, if nobody wants to second that, then it dies.
I seconded.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Now, he seconded. I just had a further comment, I think. So with certain, Caitlin, the town asked to go back to level on that.
Yes.
Okay. And it's not currently built into their budget, to your knowledge.
To my knowledge, no, but I haven't looked at their budget.
Oh, actually, then I'm going to follow.
I would move that we amend what you said, as long as it's not currently already built into their budget. If it's already built into their budget, we don't need to change anything. If there's a second on the amendment. I don't know that it is or it isn't.
I don't know either.
Wait a minute. We might have a question.
Caitlin, is that? I just want to be clear that the 1,288,621 is $61,000 off of what our proposed budget was.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I had the numbers right. Okay, so you want to make an amendment to say that it's,
if it's not already accounted for in their budget. But
I can look at the
Jack is
draft
looking.
warrant. They talked about it last night. I thought the number was in there.
what would be the reason to ask us to do that if it wasn't already in their budget? I'm not sure I'm understanding.
If they put it in their budget as a level funded, then it's in.
No,
it's
I'm
moot for us
looking,
to
I'm just
vote on.
pulling up what the packet said last night at the meeting on what they, but they've
Let me
already
withdraw
built
my
into the
amendment.
budget.
Okay.
So, but it takes a few minutes and it's a tiny little phone.
That's why I never use phones. I don't do email on phones. I don't do games on phones. Nothing. Well, text message occasionally.
That's education.
It's already over.
Hmm?
It's already over.
Mm-mm.
School.
No, we're here. It's raining. It's soon going to be over, though. And then we can adjourn the meeting.
Sorry, it's taking me a little bit of time to find the article.
Well, why don't we just vote it? I mean,
Yeah.
if we voted, it's voted.
I tend to agree, but
Well,
Just a minute, I found the
I like
tech
the-
school funding, so I'm
I
looking
like
for
the
the
purpose of your
secondary
question,
group.
of your
Mhm.
You
amendment.
guys.
No, I
Here it
agree.
is. $1,288,622.
It's done deal.
That is what they put
It's
in.
moot for us to
That's what
vote
they
on
built
it
the
then.
budget
There's
in.
no
that's level
point in
funded.
us.
Yes, that's level
We don't have
funded.
to
That's
vote
what they
on
have in the.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so we need to reduce our request to make it level funded. So I'll withdraw my amendment. Okay, because the 61,000 is not in there.
correct.
Okay, I'll withdraw my amendment request. Okay, we vote on the original.
But do we even have to vote on it if the town already went below
Yes,
us and
because it's still our budget.
Yeah. So
They're hoping we do this,
Technically,
but
no, but it shows
No,
that
not
you're in agreement with
technically, no.
it. Well, they did it last year.
It's our budget. We have to vote on this.
I
That's
just
our
want
purview.
to read you what's in the warrant article, the draft warrant article, because I think it's important. I think it will alleviate some of your concerns. In the article, they have down on the article information, this article provides funding for Irving's secondary education costs of the sending school to grades 7 through 12 to other districts, excluding the tech school. The development of this budget is based on actual fiscal 2025 costs for the Irving students who attended the Gil Montague District for the coming school year. Actual decisions about the students' education aren't known until the start of the school year, and as a result, this budget may require a supplemental funding request in the future. That is what's on the warrant,
That's what's on the draft warrant.
which
yes,
they just got to put the numbers in. They're going to finalize it in 2 weeks.
So,
correct.
do we have
So
a motion and a second?
I made the motion.
Second.
You seconded it. So
Call
we
the
need
question.
we can either have further discussion or we can vote. Is there any further discussion? Okay. So all in favor of level funding to 1,288,621? Aye.
Aye.
Yay, nay, or abstain? Your choice.
abstain.
all right, I'll vote aye.
Okay. So 3 ayes, 1 abstain.
I'd like to abstain, but I couldn't. I think we
You
to
have
go
your
ahead.
right to. You can.
Well, I know, but
I
then the
understand.
motion would fail, and I
The
don't want
motion
it to
would fail. Yep.
Okay.
We'll take turns.
Okay. Is there more, Caitlin, for your?
Nope, that's it.
Alrighty.
Always the bearer of good news.
Our cupcake.
Up to the principal report.
Hey!
Do you want to try the screen or we?
No, I know it's good. I'll try.
Okay.
I've tried already. While walking around, keeping the lights on, I've tried a couple times and technically still fail.
Okay.
But just to, you all have access to the report. We start with a review of our enrollment. We are at 119 students as of April Fools. We were very excited about that and continuing to increase our kids. The pictures on that page include a really interactive math lesson in grade 5. We had this well transformed into coordinate grid, and all 4 grids were present, and kids were using the coordinate plane grid to plot points on the line, and all of our 5th graders were out here and showing where each of the quadrants represented different coordinate plane pairings. I was really excited about that because this is a nice level of increase in rigor, because as you talk about this, the goal in 5th grade is to understand where the positive grid is on a coordinate plane. And we were engaging kids with all 4 grids. And they were doing a great job with it. So I was really excited by that. The next couple of slides are about our science night. We have a series of 4 slides on that, sorry. The photographs show the 39 students from 27 families that attended. Side note, as your favorite math person, I will tell you, there were 40 kids at math night, just as an FYI. But 39 is a good second place finish by those science people. Now, feedback was tremendous. Parents really enjoyed it. They got to do a great deal of really deep science experiments that allowed them to translation that to their homes, how they can use magnets, how they can use electricity. There was just in every room there was something really cool going on. We additionally had a great deal of work in our gym going on because we had students leading all about body awareness and understanding how to work out your muscle groups, which is a different part of science. So we really just had a tremendous opportunity to engage in science. This was our 3rd in our series of family enrichment nights. Our 4th one will be in June. We are excited about that one as well. That'll be our arts and entertainment night. So there'll be parents will get to hear about what a practice session will look like for chorus or for instruments. We'll have art events here. There's lots of opportunities for kids to kids to show off their abilities and to move into the summer session with ways that they can engage in the arts over summertime. The 7th slide talks about our, as I said, our upcoming. We also have our technology safety in May. That is May 5th. 5 to 5:40 in the library. We will be done and out before the town meeting occurs at 5:45, so no one has to worry about us. I included MCAS math nights. I will tell you, as of today, we have concluded ELA. I am exceptionally proud of the kids. A tremendous amount of work went on in every grade across every kid. It was wonderful, so a lot of effort. I don't know if that effort speaks to the number of children who want to dump water on me, or if there's just a lot of effort going on. But there was a real commitment to earning that water to be thrown at me. So we'll be looking forward to that in the fall. I'll pick a nice hot day. We had a wonderful school council meeting last week. I was really excited about that. We reviewed our student handbook. The determination was made at this time to not recommend any changes because we're still within that first year of implementation, and they feel as though it's working well. We are going to continue to look to recruit more families and parents to come to these meetings. And so if you happen to know someone out there in the public who wants to be a part of our Monday afternoon meetings, it is a really great opportunity. So we hope people will join us in that. We also reviewed all of our progress data. Yes, Mark.
How many people are involved in the school council?
Why is this like going off again?
I feel like it's much shorter today.
It's much shorter than ever before, and I do not know why. We have 3 parents who are on our books right now. It's not consistent that all 3 parents are able to attend, and that is why we are looking for more parents to come in and take places. So. But we also talked about progress data, sat down and went through all of our, because we actually a week earlier had done our interim data from the progress monitoring from our January. And so we actually sat down and went over what we'd done as interventions from the January outcomes until the middle of March and what the outcomes for students were at that point, which is, I think, a really great thing to do. I was really excited about that, and I'll take some questions on this first part before I move into the next part of the presentation. Nope? Okay. And the next part are the next round of surplusing. So my goal is to get things that are broken out of here. Feel like it's a thing to do. So we have on slide 8 a surplus food proofer. It is not plugged in. It has already been replaced. It cannot work because it starts fires and it burns food. So we cannot use it. It is not sellable, or it's really bad. It presents a fire hazard. So it is unplugged. It is waiting to be approved for surplus. and we have pictures of it already there. You can actually see in the bottom picture of the first one, where it started some fire. So, and this actually evidently happened prior to my arrival, but it's been sitting there, and so my ongoing effort to get rid of things that are broken, that's why it's here. On the next slide, we have the broken ground maintenance pieces that have already been replaced. Again, we have a leaf blower that does not work, tractor mower deck, a weed whacker, and a wheelbarrow that has holes in it. So it doesn't really do a great job of carrying things. And then the last slide, slide 10, are the broken snow blower and the tractor snow blower. Again, both of which do not work. All of which has been replaced, by the way, in previous years before I got here.
I do think you have equipment surplus as a vote under new business.
Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to give you pictures of everything and a description in case you had any questions. I thought now was a good time to do that.
Thank you.
I'm going to return to my corner so that the lights stay on.
Do we have any questions about the surplus? Again, as Shannon said, we'll be voting on that a little
Or anything else.
a little bit. Anything else? No? Okay. One thing I would like to request is that we check in May on the truck since we just purchased it. I'd kind of like to see how we're doing with that, and if we need to create any sort of policies for it, or are you creating any procedures for it, that sort of thing, just to check in.
Got it. Okay.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. All right, do we have a report from the,
There is no update.
Okay.
The link is there, but there's no updates.
do we have a pie update? Not hearing any, okay. We have the next joint supervisory committee meeting is on Monday, May 18th, 7 o'clock. We have nothing under old business, although I guess maybe, so the truck would go under old business next time, I think. Okay, school choice, discussion and vote. What do we want to talk about school choice?
You have to take a formal vote to extend it into next year.
Yes, but don't we usually get a bit of a here's what I'm thinking.
No.
Sure.
Okay.
So school choice has helped us to improve the grades that we currently have. Our second grade third grade has gone from 9 up to 12. It's a much more healthy group to have 12 kids in it. Our second grade has risen up to 14. Nice number there. We did not end up using school choice in other grades because we already had 15, and we aligned to that discussion. So we did not increase some grades. Where school choice really helped was in kindergarten this year and in pre-K. So we were able to bring in kids. We have already started recruiting kindergartners for next year. We had one kindergartner for next year living in town. We're now up to 8, and we're hoping that we'll get a couple more kids. So school choice has assisted us in years that are lean. We have an incoming class of 3-year-olds that we have 18 kids already scheduled for preschool in the fall, 8 of which are returners in the 4-year-old program. The other 10 are coming in as 3-year-olds. But as a town, there's another 10 kids, 11 kids who we know will not be coming because their parents need 5 days a week, and we only offer 3-year-olds 4 days a week. And so that's a class that we would not be taking in school choice because there's just too many kids there, and we're excited to have all of those kids. But in classes where we're limited and we have a low population, it really helps us.
So we have to take a vote on what class. If you're not going to open it in general.
I would open it in general. I'm saying because it's only because it's the preschool 3-year-olds we're talking about.
So your recommendation is that you open school choice next year for grades K through 6.
Yes, with the same caveat that was given to me last year, that we do not bring in school choice if we are already at 15, which is what I stuck to, and I think it's worked well.
So we're not really opening a K to 6. We're only opening it K1.
We're opening it for whatever grades end up having less than 15.
But we have to report right now we have to report to the state what
Oh.
grades that we're going to accept. So
But I think
based-
they're supposed to be a school of choice.
no, I have to list what grades unless they're opening it up in general. Unless you want to open it up in general with the caveat of 15, because then you could say it's in general if kids moved.
Because if
Put
kid moved
that
out,
disclaimer on it though, and not have to name the
You
grades.
can have a class.
you
So
did
what
that
will
last
happen
year.
is I will report it that you are a school of choice.
Yeah.
But you have set a policy of your class size. So that could just be your standard.
That
We
seems
don't
like
have a policy.
That was the direction I was given
You could
last
vote
year.
here and say, we want to, that we're going to accept it at any grade. So if we could have 15 kids right now in second grade and 3 move over the summer, then that would be open, still sticking at the 15. So
that seems
what I
like
have
what
to,
we need.
right.
That seems like what we need to do. It's the simplest statement. We are a school of choice with a limit of 15 kids in a class.
So, but for this committee right now, you have to vote that you're either a school of choice or not. Beth is very clear about your class size expectations and has stuck to them this year. So if you open it up to school choice, it allows that flexibility of if students move or come in. She has not gone over that with school choice, or you can limit it by grade.
Does the motion have to include the disclaimer of allowing 2 classes, or can we just move that we accept school choice for the upcoming school year 26-27?
Okay. So we have a recommendation from the principal that we open up our school to school choice students. We've had a discussion about the philosophy of keeping it to 15 students, no more than 15 students in a grade. So any grades that have more than 15 would just simply not open to school choice. So we need a motion and a second to,
I do that motion. I move that we accept school choice for the school year 26-27.
Second.
okay. Any further discussion?
So if 25 people apply, we don't have to accept them all.
No, you don't have to. You do a lottery,
A lottery.
based on your enrollment. And really, right now, you do have openings. And if you look at what's moving out, with the exception right now of next year's grade 1 and 2, they're the only ones that, according to this, would not have any openings. But they're pretty close on that 15 line. Like you could have one family move out, and that could change. So, I think that's fine.
I think it's important that we put a number on it, but I think it's also important that we give some flexibility to the makeup of that class. Anybody who's ever been in a classroom knows that sometimes 15 can seem like 30 and sometimes 15 can seem like 5. They're not always the same thing. So I want to make sure that you feel like we are supporting your decision in that realm as well.
Yes.
Because I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to say, because she may have a class that, she's like, this is a dream
That's
class,
enough.
right?
Oh,
And
yeah. I know the other way.
I got a sibling, but they have a 5th grade, and you might say, they'll put me at 16, but at discretion, because you are a school of choice. I think the principal knows that, and I think that relying on Beth's expertise makes total sense.
Okay.
Agreed.
So I don't know if that changes your motion or not. I just think it's a discussion point that was important to make. Okay, so you guys feel good about still making that motion in the... Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous, yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. All right, so there you go. Where are we back now? Okay, so now we're up to the surplus equipment discussion and vote. So these were the pieces of equipment that the principal pointed out in her report. Sounds like the equipment. Are you designating the equipment to be put up like on the municipal bid to be sold, or are you looking for it to be scrapped and gotten rid of?
I'm looking for it to be scrapped and got it. It's all broken, and the proofer is dangerous,
Okay.
which is why it's been
So
unplugged.
none of the equipment that you're looking to surplus is any resale value that you're looking to put
No,
on a resale
unfortunately,
site.
because it's broken and or dangerous, it's not.
Okay.
My understanding is, and I will make the suggestion that we offer it up to the town. Glenn indicated that there might be parts he could take off of stuff and cannibalize for other trucks and things in the system. And I would certainly, if he would like to do that, certainly encourage him to do that. But it's not sellable stuff.
Okay, I think that's a recommendation that you can make to the select board, and then they will go with it from there. As long as we don't feel like there's anything that's worth selling, so therefore that would be a monetary issue. However they deal with it at the town level is fine with me. I'd rather people reuse things, so I'm all for that.
So we need a motion to declare this stuff surplus, and so move we do that.
Okay.
Second.
Did you second it, Mark?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Have you tried to run any of it? Like start the weed whacker, any of that?
I personally
Oh,
have
okay.
not,
Okay.
mostly because I've worked very hard to not have any building claims against our insurance this year, and I feel like me trying to use a weed whacker is going to result in me having to go to the hospital.
Good to know. Okay.
All right. So all in favor of declaring that equipment surplus? Aye. Great. All right. We have a couple of policies that we have a first read on. Just want to make sure we read it. Yeah. Okay. ICA school year calendar. IGA/IGD, curriculum development and adoption. These are our first read. Remember, these will come back to us a couple more times. Is there anything that the policy committee wants to share with us in particular about these policies? Anything noteworthy that we should be aware of?
I believe these both were not edited. They were just an update to the new legal references. As in blue, there's nothing that we have edited on them.
Okay.
There was a suggestion at the end of the meeting that at our next meeting we expedite the movement of any policies that are relatively unquestionable and are in the channel, and just get them all adopted at the end of the school year. So the following year, the policy committee is starting with a blank slate.
Okay, so you'd be looking to kind of jump our typical first read, second read, first vote. Okay.
Yeah.
And I believe it's 2 we're bringing in next month. So it'll be a second read on these 2, and then a hope to push the other 2, which are both common sense adoptions, I feel, forward quicker
Okay.
next month.
Okay, so we'll meet them on May and we'll vote them in June.
Right.
Okay. Okay, we'll have to vote that
Right.
that procedure change, but okay, so future business. We do have our town meeting. Everybody should know about that on May 13th. Huh?
May 13th at 7 p.m.
Yes, and it's here at the school in the gym. It just seems so late this year, the 13th. We have a policy committee meeting on May 19th at 6:30, and then our school committee meeting following that, May 19th at 7 o'clock. Again, that's back to our typical third Tuesday of the month. Does anybody have anything else?
I do.
Okay.
Adjourn.
Oh, hang on.
I have one other thing. It's not political, and I don't think it's controversial, but April is the month of military children. Because in purple is a conglomeration of green from the Army, a little bit of red from Marines, everything else, Air Force, Space Force, the varying shades of blue in the Navy, Coast Guard. And children, when parents are in the military, children contribute too. Because either mom, dad, or whoever's in the military is away, even if they're not fighting somewhere, they're gone in the military, and it's 24/7. So this is April, tomorrow's the day, but April's the month of military children. So that's what the purple's about.
Thank you
Nice.
for sharing that.
I wasn't even aware that was a thing, so thank you for
Okay.
educating me. Okay, anything else? All right, make a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.